To be or not to be creative? That is the question. Whether it is nobler to focus on the left brain and ignore the calling of the right, or, having identified the right, dismiss the list-making proclivities of the left. I reason and I rhythm with the left, but I rhyme with the right. Yet I use the right for change. And then I need the left to support the structure of my change. The polarity of creativity is a curious beast. It requires us to use both halves of the brain. It requires us to use the black and white of our structured thinking and the colour and movement of our creative right brains. When Shakespeare wrote To Be or Not to Be back in about 1601, he had no idea what our current world would look like. He was a prolific playwright and a master at the business of creativity. As you've heard in my introduction, I have also worked on the business of creativity for possibly a lot less time than Shakespeare, and certainly without his reputation. But what I have learnt in that time is how I blend my creativity, how I use the left brain and the right brain. They are not separate things. My personal expression of my creativity is part of what you see, but it is not the way I create. It is an expression of my creativity. The colour you see, the hair, all of that, it's just an expression of my creativity, but it is not what I do. So let's talk very quickly about some of the myths of creativity. Could I have a really quick show of hands of those of you who believe that you're not really creative, you don't have a creative bone in your body, and that's for other people? Show of hands, please. Fantastic, well done. And now a show of hands of those of you who believe that maybe, just maybe, everybody is creative. Ooh, interesting. And now a show of hands for those people who hate putting their hands up when people ask, could I have a show of hands? No one? Yes, thank you. There's always at least one or two, thank you. So we had about maybe 60-40%. Isn't it interesting? Yet research has shown that creativity is inherent. It is part of what we are, part of the skills, if you like, and the gifts that we are born with. So I want to just debunk a couple of myths about creativity before we start. The first one is that you need talent, that creativity comes in great big letters, 10 foot high, and that there's only certain people who are allowed to be creative. That's not true. That's what we call talent. Everybody has a talent of some kind. Their expression of that talent is creativity. So your talent could be that you are, I don't know, a fabulous football player, that you're brilliant in what you do for your work. My particular talent happens to be about telling stories and helping other people to tell stories. That's just one expression of my creativity. But talent is something that we have a skill in something. It is not creativity. The second myth is that creativity can't be taught. Now, if that were true, we would have to close down NIDA and WAPA and every university and any kind of educational institution in the world, because creativity can be taught. There are PhDs in creativity and innovation. I'm sure some of you have actually done that. So creativity can be taught. And the third myth that I find really interesting is that creativity is not commercial. Had a really interesting thing happen the other day. I was having a meeting with a mentor who's also a fellow speaker, very well regarded, very well respected, and talks about passion around the world. He has a very big speaking business. And he said to me, "Oh, I don't think you should speak about creativity, Simone. I don't think it's very commercial." And for a moment, just for a moment, I believed him. And I thought, oh, I'm going to have to ring Natalie and I'm going to have to say, "Natalie, I'm going to have to talk about something else. I'm so sorry, but this is just not going to work for your audience. It's not commercial enough." And I believed that for maybe about 24 hours, but I didn't ring Natalie because after I really reflected on it, I thought, well, that's not true. If we didn't respect and value creativity in an organisation, how much growth do you think you would experience? I love all of the notes and quotes I see on the wall. That to me is the hallmark of a creative organisation. So creativity is commercial. Would you agree? And that an organisation that is not creative dies. You've only got to see companies such as Kodak, who failed to innovate, who failed to create, and suddenly became second best, second runners. So on the other side of that then, if they're the myths, then are there some truths about creativity? There are 3 truths that I have discovered in my work as a theatre director and as a producer. I've had to use my own creative capacities in many, many different ways over the years, and these are the truths that I've uncovered in that time. And they are universal truths, and not just mine. The things that I've uncovered have been as I've been a producer-director where I've been standing in the box office 7:45 on a Friday evening, the opening night of one of my productions. I have a theatre company that I run with my husband in Brisbane. So this was the opening night of a production. 1/4 of an hour before the curtain goes up, one of the actresses is missing. What do? Do you go out and say, "I'm sorry, but I don't know what to do. I can't fix this problem"? No, what I did is I walked into the audience and said, "Unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen," and there was a big crowd, a little bit bigger than this, but not much because it was a very small theatre. So I walked out into the audience and said, "Ladies and gentlemen, due to unforeseen circumstances," we think she was actually at the casino, but I didn't say that to the audience. "Due to unforeseen circumstances, tonight the role of XYZ will be played by myself." Luckily, it was opening night and I was all dressed up. Luckily, I was the director. And I knew where to walk on the stage, so I knew what all the blocking was. I knew what to say, well, for the most part. I had a script in my hand. Now, if I didn't value my own creativity and my ability to problem solve, do you think I could have done that? I would have been tremendously fearful. I would never have been able to walk onto that stage. As it was, the rest of the cast were in a panic, but I managed. But they were panicking because they were worried that maybe, that I would forget where I needed to be. They were more concerned for me. But because of my problem-solving skills, which is one of the hallmarks of creativity, I was able to say, right, this is what needs to be done. And I did it. So one of the first things that you need to embrace creativity in your own lives is to be flexible. You see, when we have a fixed mindset, we can't see anything beyond what we already know. So if we're looking to solve a problem, if we only think, well, this is it, this is as much as I know, we can't move beyond that. So on the one hand, the right brain loves to be flexible. The left brain can be a little rigid. So I would encourage you to start thinking about bringing those together and becoming more flexible in your thinking. That's number one. Number two, be present. Now, you might hear that word bandied about a lot, and sometimes people say, well, what is that? I'm demonstrating it to you right now. I'm here. I'm present, I'm focused with you, I'm paying attention to you. I'm noticing the eye contact, I'm noticing the body language, I'm noticing the smiles, and I'm present. When you are present with what you are doing, it allows you to tap into your intuition and your creativity and solve the problem that might be facing you right at that moment. It allows you to have almost like a bird's eye view, if you like, of your organisation, of your team, and say what needs to be done. When you're present, not only in your work environment, but in your life, you have the opportunity to contribute not just to yourself, but to others. In that wonderful, as, I'm sorry, you'll have to say your name for me again. Nirmala. As Nirmala said, that wonderful connectedness that we are all searching for. So when you are present, you're in your right mind. When you're absent, you're not. Did you know that they say left-handers are the only ones who are in their right mind? How many left-handers do we have in the room? Yes! Be brave, be proud. Left-handers. Yes, little joke. You can say that now. We're the only ones in our right mind because it tends to govern the right hand, the right side of the brain. So be present with every moment of your life. Don't let things slip past you. Take time to appreciate. Take time to connect. And the third truth that I've discovered, and this is probably the core for me, for my own creative process, is curiosity. Did you know that a 4-year-old asks on average about 288 questions a day? Any of you have 4-year-olds or younger? Yes? Would you agree? Or more? More, yes. And in fact, 4-year-old girls ask upwards of 350. Is it a girl?
I have 2 girls.
Yes, she has 2 of them, so 600 questions a day. Over 300 questions a day. As we age, we stop asking questions. And by the time we're in our 40s, we ask on average about 4 questions a day. These are not the questions that are like, what movie do you want to see or where do you want to go for dinner? I'm not talking about those kinds of domestic questions. I'm talking about the questions that expand your brain, that make you think about the world in a different way. When was the last time you asked, what if? When was the last time you explored something with a child's sense of curiosity? We will often ask why, won't we? Why are you doing that? And it's a judgmental kind of why. That's often the kind of questions we ask. So today, I want you to make one change by asking a different kind of question. By asking, what if? And you don't need the answer. That's the beauty of that question. You can just say, what if? And wait for inspiration to come and the creativity to flow. When you ask a question like that, an open question, it allows the brain to get to work on the puzzle. But we so often shut that down because we're not flexible. We're not being present with the problem. We're off thinking about, I've got all of this incredible to-do list. I haven't got time to do that. I haven't got time to ask questions because this is the way that we always do things. So I'm not going to ask a question that says, what if we tried something different? The whole way this program has been created, the PDF program, would have been because somebody asked the question, what if? What if we created a program that was all around professional development, that encouraged people to think about things in a different way, that encouraged creativity, that encouraged connectedness, that encouraged our personal voice in this company? How magical that somebody asked the question, what if? So the core of my personal creativity comes down to one sentence, and I want to just share that with you, which is that I am present with what is, and I ask, what if? I encourage you to make one change, and that is to ask, what if? I started with Shakespeare, and I want to finish with Alan Alda. I don't know how many of you remember him from MASH. Really different, right? And he has a wonderful quote about creativity, and I'm just going to paraphrase a bit of it. To visit the city of your creativity, you need to leave the city of your comfort. What you will find there will be wonderful. What you will find there is yourself. What if? Thank you.